Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Beyond Yield and Vertical Farming special session conducted within the fourth cohort of the Digital Bootcamp, Food and Climate Shaper Digital Bootcamp. This session is co-hosted with Farm Tech Society, who is one of our knowledge partners since last November. And we have with us Mark and Roman here. And that being said, I'll pass it on to them to introduce themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you for giving us the opportunity to be part of this. We're delighted to be able to help and to provide content and moderation for this. So just for anyone who doesn't know, a brief word on the Farm Tech Society. We are an international non-profit industry association, and we aim to unite and support the controlled environment agriculture industry. And essentially, we want to work on partnerships and projects that help to really drive that industry forward, to share knowledge and do all of those things. And this is really just a perfect example of that. I won't say much more than that for now. What I will do is introduce our speaker today, who is Romain Schmidt from Farm 3, and they are delivering modular, robotized, high-yield farms along with service and a whole bunch of other interesting things that Romain will talk about, and he's going to give you a presentation. I encourage you all to put your questions in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll be watching those and monitoring those, and we'll get to those after the presentation. So without any further ado, Romain, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mark. So I'm going to share my screen to start with. Okay, is everyone seeing my screen? Okay, perfect. So hi everyone. I'm Romain Schmidt, CEO and founder of FarmCube. With this presentation, I hope to explain a bit what we are doing at FarmCube, but also to give some of the insight that I actually learned when building the company. A few really basic points that are very important when you want to build this type of company. So I'm going to go and dive in. As an introduction, I'm going to go and explain why we want to build those type of company. Of course, the first reason is because we need to. We need to because we have nowadays we have a lot of ecological target that we want to reach. The first one, of course, that we talked a lot is we are bound to be 10 billion people in the next 30 years. So we have a need to produce more food. The first question that is raised is the Earth already at full capacity? Can we produce more food to feed everybody? When we look at it, we see that actually already today we use 70% of our drinkable water for food production. We use 11% of the habitable land. We use 12% of the worldwide carbon emission is due to the transportation of our food. It's a known fact that a tomato can travel up to 2,000 kilometers before reaching the plate. We have optimized our plants so that they can travel further, and by doing so, each of our plants actually have lost a lot of vitamins and are less nutritive than they used to be. So those are a few of the challenges we are facing right now. Of course, everybody know about pesticide. FarmCube is a French company, and in France we are actually one of the country with the more pesticide in the blood of the population in Europe. So this is a real target for French people, having a food that has less pesticide. But with the goal of feeding everybody, can we reach it? And now there's a second reason why you see so much talk about CEA, about vertical farming. Why is there so much company raising in this particular field? So yes, because we need it, but also because now we actually can. There's been a lot of advancement in technologies that allow us to have sensors and lighting for the plants. Nowadays, you can actually imitate every aspect of the growth parameters you need for your plant to grow. You can imitate what would happen in field inside a chamber, and you can do it on a cost-effective way. And this is what I'm actually gonna talk about. Just before, just to make sure everybody is on the same page, a few words about the different type of vertical farming technologies. So of course you have soil, which is the traditional agriculture. Then you have hydroponics, which is the main one you would see. I would say, I would go as far as saying that 80% of the companies growing in CEA or in vertical farming are using hydroponics. So hydroponics is the plant having their roots growing inside water, and inside the water you put the nutriments, you can put sensors, and you have to put oxygen inside the water. The roots of the plants actually need oxygen. This is a bit counterintuitive, but even in soil you have to move the soil to make sure the oxygen goes inside the root. And because of that, there's another culture method that has been developed, which is called aeroponic. Aeroponic is having the roots growing in air. So there's no water, no soil, just the root growing in air. And you pulverize a mist of water and nutriment on the roots. Now at FarmCube, we are using a derivative of aeroponics. I would say that not more than 5% of the companies in the world are using aeroponic. Why so? Because it's you cannot buy an aeroponic system on the shelf and just start growing. You have to build it from the ground up. So this is fairly complicated. Also, it has some downside. On the slide, you can see that it's actually the technique that uses the less water, that allow the best yield. You don't have to use pesticide. That it's more or less because of the control environment, not that much about the aeroponic. It has a great growth speed and uses less nutriment than other techniques. That said, because the roots are in air, the system go down for more than 3 hours, the plant will suffer, and after 5 hours, the plant will die. So it's also it's a difficult technological achievement to grow plants in air, but also it's a very risky one. So there's not a lot of company doing it. We have you have my company, FarmCube, that's doing it. You have Aero Farms in New Jersey. And you have in France, there's another company called agro-ecological, and in Switzerland, you have a company called Combat Group. Now I think they changed their name to Clean Greens. So this is a bit of an overview of the different companies. So you can see that on the aeroponic side, there's not more than 10 companies, I think, in the world doing it. Aeroponic it's quite funny. It's a technique that has been developed by a researcher in the 1930 and has been in a way upgraded by the space agency NASA because they wanted to sense plants in space, and looking at the what would be the culture method that uses the less water, because sending water in space is it's quite heavy, so it's quite expensive. So they came up, actually it's NASA that came up with a perfected way of growing plant in air. Now, when you want to build a vertical farm or CEA, you have, I would say you have three main concerns before starting the company. The first one is productivity. Of course it's basic, but you really need to think about it, because oh yes, just before I talk about productivity, there's I put a small slide just to explain something that some people tend to not know or forget. When you talk about CEA technology, you have two choices. You can buy an already working technology that has been developed for these purposes. My company is building the cube. I will talk about it later, but this is one type of production solution you could buy and then exploit it and sell the plants. Another solution is to develop it from the ground up and then use it to sell the plants. In the end, you have the different products, but the same market selling vegetables. Now, buying an existing technologies came with a few pros and cons. I've listed just a few. Of course, you have a fast market entry. You already have the technology. You already have all the studies done on the agronomic. You know how much it will yield. You know what is the quality. You can build a strong business plan. Gather a team that is really focused on selling the product. And actually, there's a nice example of this in France. It's a company called Jungle. Jungle raised, I think it was last year, 22 million. And if you look at Jungle, you're not even sure it's their technology. You think maybe they actually build it, and they are really, really fast. I never heard of them like 3 years ago, and last year they raised 22 million, and now they are selling plants in different retailer in France, big companies. And when you look into it, actually you see that they have bought the technology from IGS, which I guess you know, it's an English company, Scotland. I think it's from Scotland, Intelligent Growth Solution. So they have a marvelous technology. And Jungle bought this technology and now is using it to sell the plant, and by doing so they are incredibly fast. It's really hard to go as fast as them, because they already had the technology, the knowledge, and all they have to do is have a strong sales team and go from there. So this is really an interesting way of doing so. That said, it's of course it came with a bit of con, as it's not their technology. If for some reason IGS were to stop doing their activity, Jungle would have the same issue. They would have to start from zero. Also, another thing I have found out when building the company, you're not sure what the client will want. My client was asking, can you do some tea? The tea plant inside the cube was something I would never thought of before, and I can do it, but I have to make some modification, some engineering modification to be able to fit the need of this particular client. If you buy the technology from somebody, of course you have to take it as it comes, and you cannot make modifications. So this is something to think about. Now, when you develop your own technology, one of the important pros is the patents. That's something not to forget when building something new in a field that is actually kind of new. There's a lot. I've put it on the bottom of the slide. There's room for new actors, but there's also still room for new technology, for innovation, and I can only encourage new companies to build new ways to build vertical farming, new growing methods. That there is still room for a lot of different patents. And on a personal side, if you build a company, you have to think not only about revenue, but also about what is my company worth. And patents is a strong way of having worth in your company. Also, it comes, of course, with autonomy and safety, because if it's your technology, you're safe using it and changing it over the years. So one example of a company that has built everything from the ground up and is of course very successful, and I'm guessing everybody has heard of them. It's Aerofarms. So the company growing in aeroponically in the New Jersey. So Aerofarms, actually they are a company growing mostly salad and leafy greens. They are one of the first actors in the field, and then they have entered in IPO. So it's quite a big achievement. It's the first vertical farm to achieve that. So this is, of course, a strong success story. And one thing that is funny, if I would say, with Aerofarms is that they have built the technology and have exploited the technology. they are actually not selling the technology, which is a kind of, not a lot of people are doing this. They are really focused on just selling the plants. And this is something interesting. You always have the choice of either selling the technology or selling the plants. And not everyone in the vertical farming sector is your competitor. A lot of people come and tell me, so AeroFarm is one of your competitors, and it's actually not. We don't have the same market because they're selling plants and I'm selling a production tool. So those are two very different things. And even though there's not a lot of actors, we have to make the differentiation between who is the actor. And I would go even further. And Jungle, I talked about them a bit earlier. They bought a production unit, a production technology. So they actually are a client of my company. They could be a client. So it's important to understand how it works, how the ecosystem works in the vertical farming. So then more into it. What I wanted to talk about also, it's when if you want to build or if you want to buy a technology anyway, if you want to make a company that is going to sell vegetable, one of your major competitors, of course, it will be traditional agriculture. You have to have at least the same productivity to be relevant. So of course, in CEA, you have a lot of advantage. First of all, if you have a vertical solution, which means you grow plants on top of each other, you have a better yield per square meter. So this is of course very interesting. The speed of production, it kind of depends, because CEA doesn't mean you can use different growth method when you're in CEA. So for example, in FarmCube, the ultra bioponic, the one we are using, and I will explain it a bit later, our plant grow 2 times faster than in soil and 1.5 faster than in hydroponics. So those are, in a way, speed of production is also yield and productivity. Loss is very interesting because in traditional agriculture, you have a lot of different way of losing your production, and losing your production is losing your revenue. So they use pesticide to make sure they attacks insect and all. Actually, that's not even the only problem they're facing. I'm living in a small town called Les Fours in France, and last week there was I'm not sure what's the name in English, but there was not rain but ice falling from the sky, and this destroyed every crops from the producer that was living next to me, and he told me he lost half his revenue of the year just because of 10 minutes of a heavy rain. And this is terrible, of course, but you have to understand that we now live in a world that always have faced climatic condition, but now it's actually getting worse. So due to climate change, it's not just the temperature rising, it's also season changing, it's also snow when it's not supposed to snow, and everywhere in the world, the producers are facing heavy loss in their production, and this is where CEA also brings something, because it's a safe environment, so you don't need pesticide, but also it's a safe environment from the plants, from the climate, and because you control every aspect of the climate inside the farm, you can produce all year round. So this is our product at FarmCube. It's called the Cube. So it's 15 square meters. And inside the farm, because we grow vertically, we can put up to 5,000 plants. So it's 5,000 plants on 15 square meters. Inside the cube, we have no pathogens that can come in. We have no disease, so we don't need any pesticides. And we control every aspect of the climate. We have sensors everywhere. We have more than 30 sensors of different range to make sure that each plant receive the right climate and the right nutritive recipe. And by doing so, we are actually my team of agronomy that is led by Emilio Aubry, which is a doctor in vegetal physiology. What she's doing with her team is to build what we call recipes. So a growth recipes is a combination of nutritive parameters and climatic parameters, and by doing so, by finding the recipe for basil, for example, okay, we have found the recipes that make sure that the basil we grow with the same yield and the same quality all year round anywhere in the world, and that's one of the things we are selling at FarmCube. So we have the hardware, but we also have the software, and the software makes sure that the producer, whereas where he can put the cube in a cellar, he can put it on the roof, anywhere in the world inside the farm, it's all day, it's every day the best day of the year for the plant, and by doing so we can make sure the yield and the quality is the same every day. So this is something you can bring with CEA to make sure you have the best productivity. Now, productivity is not all. I have said I have put a lot of different sensors. I have a climate control. I have actually the lighting is done by LEDs that have been developed with a French university to make sure it's the same intensity and the same wavelength as the sun. So there's a lot of different technology inside it, and of course it uses a lot of resources to make sure the plant is growing. So yes, I have a very high productivity inside the cube, but now I need to make sure that for each basil plant I'm growing, I'm not using too much resources to a point there's actually, you always need to think, okay, growing basil, that's great. I'm growing basil without soil, I'm growing basil using less water, etc. But in the end, basil is not gonna sell that much, so I need to make sure that I'm not paying too much to grow it, or it won't be a valuable business. It's not only about doing technology; it's about making a business. So I break down in actually 5 major costs. There's a few more, but basically, when you're growing a plant, you want to think about the labor first. You want to think about the energy you are using, and of course the water, the land, and the different consumables. So about the labor first. Actually, traditional agriculture is using robots, or is trying to use robots. There's a lot of different companies building robots for traditional agriculture. It's not just reserved for CEA. Traditional agricultures now have drones. They have picking strawberries robot. That said, I would say for having met a lot of different companies in this area, it's really interesting stuff. It's not yet something that is gonna work or gonna prove as an efficient cost reducing. So it's not yet there, but it's something coming in the few years. So it need to be taken into account when building a business. Of course, in CEA, it's far easier to robotize, because it's like, in a way, it's like an Amazon factory. You know, you are designing it. You can choose how the plants are growing. In the cube, we have chosen to put the plant with this exact spacement between the plants, with this specific mold that we have built for the robot to be able to take the plant and pick it up. So you can design it in a way that the robot will have efficiency inside it. So of course it's easier, and also automatization of the different needed parameters inside the farm, inside the cube. For example, the labor force doesn't need to make sure the plants are okay, because there's no disease inside of it. They don't need to make sure the temperature is okay. Everything is automated by sensors, and it's the same for the nutritive. The nutritive recipe that we are designing. We have for the basil plant shelf, we have a specific nutritive solution that is mixed in real time and given to the plants, and the labor first only have to seed and then to pick the plant. That's mostly the two things left to be done. So this is of course a way to reduce the cost, but then come the, of course, the energy. This is one of the major costs that will be discussed when talking about CEA. This is of course the major cost when growing food now. Which is kind of absurd because it wasn't before. When you are in field, you don't use that much energy, even though they have some high machines as well, but you don't use that much energy. But now, because we are using artificial lighting, because we are using robots, because we are using so much electronics inside the farm, we use a lot of energy. And the question is raised, is it still ecological? And also, can I be cost effective when using that much energy? And this is if one of you is actually thinking of building a company around vertical farming or producing food, you have to, from the beginning, think about the energy consumption and how you can bring something new. And of course, you have solar panels that are very interesting. Of course, you have already existing solution you can integrate and implement inside the farm. And we are trying to do so actually in the Q2 to implement solar panel to reduce the energy. But there's also some other way to do it. For example, we have patented. So in the middle of the farm, you have. We don't really see it on the picture, but this structure in the middle is holding the LED panels and the LED. Actually, there's so many of them that they, even though they are LED, they are heating a lot. And because they are heating, we have to put some coal inside the farm to compensate. And this is using a lot of energy. We're using energy for the LED and then energy to cool them. So what we have done is we have put all the LED in the same structure, and this structure have ventilation to make sure the heat is going away. And we went a bit further and we have put some drawers. So we don't see them on the picture, unfortunately, but we have some drawers inside of the structure. And in the drawer, we are actually putting and they use the heat from the LED to germinate. So we are using we are putting energy, but we are using it for two purposes: the lighting, but also for the germination of the plant. And this is a way to make sure that yes, you are putting energy, but you are doing so in an effective way. And this has to be thought from the beginning. So I very quickly about the cost effectiveness. I've talked about water. So of course, water has a cost. It's quite expensive in a traditional agriculture, actually, because most of it is lost inside the soil, then go back in the skies, of course, but you have paid for it in the meantime. So what we are doing is called ultra-bioponics. It's a derivative of aeroponics. The root grow in air. Yes, this is a plant of maize that we have grown. So we have the roots were 1 meter high. And because the plants have a lot of oxygen in this system, they actually grow faster because the roots of the plant love oxygenation. So we have a faster growth, but also we are giving to the plant exactly the amount of water it needs. There's no water loss. So we can save up to 99% of water. So this is really the growing method that uses the less water today. And water is really something to be think. We always think we have unlimited amount of water. Just a reminder that it is said that the London city, it's one of many, but I've picked this example because everyone knows it. London city is bound to have a water shortage in the next 25 years if the consumption is what it is now and continuing this way. So water is at the center, should be at the center of our concern for cost, but also for an ecological stand of view. so of course, a technology that uses less water is interesting. And in our technology, we have made sure that the cube can use rainwater. So in a way, we are fully autonomous in water as of now. So this is a way to drastically play on the fact that in traditional agriculture, this is something that is highly costly, and we can reduce it. Of course, for the land part of the cost is vertical farming is giving an answer, and it's also the possibility to grow anywhere, and that's quite interesting. There's a lot of different CEA that have built system that you have like Clean Green, for example. You have to have really a big land to put your farm on it. It's quite I'm not going to say a shame, but you could do better, because we have so much land that are not being used for any given purposes as of now, and CEA is really an opportunity to give back to lost spaces an ecological utility. So you have, as for example, a Freight Farm, which is a very old company, doing farms inside freight, and they can put them anywhere, and it's just the same with the cube. We have built the cube. It's a wooden structure actually, and the cube is built on site, so you can really put it anywhere. I have 3 as of now that are being built in a cellar so you can put it on the roof, you can put it in inside buildings, and make sure that every space that are unused are being used for something worth it. And then for the workforce, so I've talked about robots. So here at FarmCube, we have developed a robot that is venturing inside the farm and taking picture of the plants. Actually, at first, we have developed a few grippers for this robot so that he is able to do different operation needed for the plants. And by using it, we have found out that the most interesting application of this robot was the fact that he has eyes. So we have put 3D cameras on it just to be able to control it. But now we are seeing that this 3D camera with the right software is really interesting, because it allows us to monitor the health and the growth of our plants from a distance. So we don't have any to enter the farm, make sure the plants are okay. The robot is actually moving inside and taking pictures and analyzing the pictures. So this is something we are developing now. It's still in development, but as of now, our robot can tell you from a plant the color of the leaf, and if there's an anomaly. So if he detects something a bit brownish, he's gonna make it you aware of something maybe not right with the plant, and also the size of the leaf. So has your plant grows with the right amount of growth, or is something wrong maybe at this point? So this is something interesting, and we are also working with a company that is doing spectroscopy. They have an artificial intelligence analyzing wavelength from the molecule signal that is inside plant leaves. So as of now, we're just using it for chlorophyll, which is the molecule that is giving this green color to the leaves, which is an interesting molecule because it's a good indication of the health of the plant. Of course, it's good green. It's a good sign, but also about the nutritive quality of the plant, because it is said that for basil, chlorophyll is directly linked to the taste of the plant. So this is the first experiment we are doing, but going further, we are going to use this technology to make sure that our plant have the most vitamins and antioxidants, etc. And to also make sure that we are building recipes not only for taste and growth, but also for nutritive quality of our plants. So when we say we have the growth recipe for basil, we make sure that it's not just because it grows fast, but also because this basil, the one that is grown with our recipe inside the cube, has the most vitamin, for example. So this is really the aim of the company in the long term. And then there's a last parameters you have to take into account. So let's say you have a high productivity, and the operating cost of your technology is quite low, and you have achieved that because you have put so much technology inside your farm that basically you can grow anything faster. And for not a large amount of money, but the installation in itself is costing so much that you would need 15 years to have a return on your investment. Nobody is going to buy it, and you won't use it because 15 years no investor is going to support you that long. So this is the last thing you have to consider, and it's really a balance on how much tech do I need to put inside the farm to have the right productivity and a good operating cost, and make sure I have a return on investment less than 5 years. Over 5 years is really too much for this type of technology. So, for example, if I would have to build an installation of from 1 to 100 cubes, because the cube have been built in the sense that you can put many next to each other on top of each other. So if you do a simulation with 100 cubes, you would have an investment of around 5 million euros for your initial installation. You would need 80,000 euros to use it, and you would make a profit. Not a profit. You would make a revenue of 200 euros, making sure that you have a return on investment under 3 years. So this is the type of calculation that we made when building the company, to make sure that we are not putting too much sensors and too much robots, and that everything we are building have a purpose. Other than just being, a nice gadget to have, or maybe I will need it later on. We make sure that everything we have put inside have a purpose to ensure the best productivity and a lower productivity cost. And this is an exercise that is, in a way, quite basic, but is really important to do if one of you want to build a company in CEA or vertical farming. Now I'm almost done. I don't know how much time I've taken. Maybe I'm a bit over. It's quite straightforward anyway. It's quickly on the business model. So this is our business model. We are selling the cube and the software to growers, to wholesalers, to any professional that would need a constant and quality production over the years. This is a strong market and a growing market. I'm not going to go too much over it because it's food producing. Of course, everybody we're going to need it. This is not going anywhere. What I wanted to talk about is another opportunity. When building this type of company, you have to think about the fact that you are not growing food, you are growing plants, and plants have a lot of different application. It's not only used for feeding people, and by doing so, you have actually access to a lot of different markets. And if you were to put too much technology inside your farm, maybe it's because you are reaching so much control that you can grow something other people are not able to grow. And then the balance change a bit. So those are a few plants we grow. We grow not only the salad and the aromas, we're also growing flowers and fruits. And if you add more technology inside your farm, maybe you can grow, for example, pharmaceutical flowers that are selling a bit higher than you would sell a salad, and maybe by selling high value plants, the revenue is higher, and then you can have a faster return on investment, even though you have put more technology. So this is also has to be taken into the balance. And for example, there's a company called in France, it's called PAT. plant advanced technologies. They're very secretive about what they do, so you won't find that much information, but I kind of know them, and they are growing aeroponic plants, and they are actually growing the roots of the plant. They don't care that much about the plant. They're growing the roots, and they are harvesting the roots for pharmaceutical company. So it's a very innovative way of seeing CEA. Because inside the roots there are some active principles that are being used by pharmaceutical companies. So you can have those type of technologies for pharmaceutical companies, for cosmetic companies. I have talked about Jungle. They are selling basil to different major brands in France, but they also have a dedicated room, also very secretive. You don't have much information about it, but they are growing a specific plant in it, I don't know which, for a perfume in France. So this is quite different, but this is a way to explain why would you put more technology. And that's actually why we put a robot inside this farm. In the picture, I don't have the robot because I don't need it. This is a production farm, but I also have a research farm, which is quite the same, but with the robot taking picture and analyzing the plants. So depending on the need, you can adjust the product. And this is my last slide. I know most of you come from everywhere in the world. I come from France, and France is I wouldn't say they don't need this technology, but in France it's more about what they would call comfort. They mostly grow everything they need here in France, even though they import a lot. But this type of technology has a bright future, especially in countries where they cannot grow themselves. So we have some strong leads in the Nordic countries, in the Emirates, where I was talking to an agriculture there. He was telling me that he took him 2 years just to make sure that the soil he has in his garden could grow something. So of course, a technology that plant and not using soil is interesting. I've also worked in an island, actually French island, Martinique, where the soil is contaminated by a pesticide called chlordecone. And everything that grows in this soil is giving cancer to people. So they have 2 times as much cancer that anywhere in the world because of the food that is growing there. Where the climate is not friendly, those are as much places where this type of technology has a future. And with the pandemic, people are getting scared of when they are not autonomous, when they cannot feed their population, such as Singapore, that is dependent on its neighbor to feed its population. They are scared that if another pandemic strike and the frontier, the borders are being closed, how are they going to feed their people? So in all this country, we are talking about food security, and food security is really the motives for this type of technology. Okay, I'm sorry if I went over. I actually don't know how much time I took, but I give you the hand for the question.
Thank you so much. No, that's absolutely fine. That was really interesting to listen to, and it's good to get into a bit of detail. I think that's really valuable. There's a lot of questions coming in, so I'll get to as I can. Well, questions and comments that people are asking. I'm going to dive straight in, actually, with one that's been kind of raging in the comments just for the last few minutes that I've been watching, which is about nutrients. So people have been asking about this type of farming has a sort of an absolute reduction of the amount of nutrients that you need, but also a kind of simplification of those nutrients. And just the question around how well the nutrients in a controlled environment agriculture system compare against the sort of complex ecosystem that soil offers, and how that relates to the sort of damages that's being done to soil by sort of conventional monoculture agriculture, and just to sort of get a few of your thoughts on that.
That's of course a great question. When we created the company, we did it with the Actually, I'm not going to go too much over, but I created the company very personally because I couldn't find the taste of my grandfather tomatoes. I was wondering where it gone. I'm a geneticist, and I was looking at it on a genetic point of view. I was wondering where this wonderful genetic I could find 30 years ago has went. And actually, we have transformed our seeds so that they can travel further, so that they can yield better. And we have never transformed it except for Japan. Japan, they have very specific seeds with very specific needs. But the rest of the world, we have seeds that are really poor in nutritive quality. And so this is not my answer. It's just nutriment is really important, but you also have to think about the seeds and the ability to grow valuable seeds. So actually we wanted to use the best possible seed, ancient seeds that were used 50 years ago, but we don't use it now because they don't have enough yield, or because they cannot resist transportation. And we thought, okay, so this seed exists, so we're going to use technology to grow them. And we're going to make sure that they have everything they need to grow without harm, and also to make sure that the production is as close as possible to the place of consumption. So you don't have to transport them to grow valuable plants. So this is first part of my answer. Don't neglect the quality of the seeds and the fact that this type of technology enables the possibility to grow better food this way. And for the nutriment part, actually, I haven't gone over, but why have we created the growing method called ultra bioponics, and why don't we call it aeroponics? It's especially for the nutriment part. So our growing method is the only one today that is using organic nutriments. So this is a very rich nutriment, something you could find in a not sure in English you use this word, but compost. So you know, okay, it exists, perfect. So this very rich nutriment, this is what we are using. Other CA don't use it, mostly because it's very viscous and it clogged their systems. And we use ultrasound to generate our mist of water and nutriment, and we can use very viscous nutriments such as organic ones. So this is inside you can put microorganisms if you want. You can put I was talking to a company that is growing insects, and they were telling me that at some point they have a lot of waste which is in different dead insects and stuff about insects, but really rich in protein and nutrients. And we were thinking about using it to feed the plant, etc. So there's a lot of ways to actually once you solve the problem of generating the mist, as we did, you can use some very actually I couldn't even mist soil if I wanted. I could take everything that is dirty about soil and just pulverize the soil if need be. So this is getting possible.
Yeah, I mean, that actually leads on quite neatly to the next question, which was about, people were asking about what the difference was between the kind of aeroponics and the ultrasonic, ultrabioponic, whatever you want to call it, type approach. So, for example, some of those things you've covered there, I'm aware, if I've understood it right, that the ultrasonic systems create a very, very small droplet size, which is good in sort of aerating the roots and these kinds.
Yeah.
So just to kind of very briefly cover those kind of advantages.
So if I do it by bullet points, so the aeroponics, there's different aeroponics type of culture that exist. You have a low pressure aeroponic, high pressure aeroponic, you have fogponics, you have a lot of different aeroponics. But the right way to do it, if I may, and the one that has been developed by NASA, it's called high pressure aeroponics. And high pressure aeroponics, you make sure each droplets of water and nutriment is 50 microns. So this is the right size for the droplets, to make sure the roots can drink it fast enough to use as less energy as possible to feed itself and as much as possible to grow. And that's why it grows faster. In ultra bioponics, we make sure we have this 50 microns, but not using pressure. We are using ultrasound, and by playing on the frequency of the nozzle, we can choose the size of the droplets. And there's 2 points that is amazing. The first one is that we always have this droplet size from the beginning to the end of the pulverization, which you don't have in high pressure because you have the time to build the pressure up. So we don't have it in our system. And the second one is the pulverization of organic nutriments. And combining all those parameters, you have the growing method that is having the best yield, but also the growing method that is using the less water amount. So we are saving up to 99.8% water actually in comparison to traditional agriculture.
It's yeah, I mean, on that point, someone did ask in the comments that were going on in the Q&A whether kind of mold was an issue. And I would imagine, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I would imagine the fact that you're using that small size droplets and that water is getting absorbed by the plants at maximum efficiency reduces the chances of those sort of problems occurring.
Yeah, of course. Inside, so we have a plant room and a root room. So a room with only the roots and the pulverization system. And actually, as we only give what the plant needs, it drink it really fast, and we never had a problem, any issue with mold building up. So no, that never happened.
Sure. So changing tack a bit, I'm aware that sort of we're getting close to time here. You mentioned about sort of companies that develop technology and companies that kind of buy in a technology. In my experience of the industry, generally those that develop their own technology, and I think you sort of mentioned this, tend to go on to selling that equipment rather than being growers, although aerofarms are a bit of an exception, granted. So, you know, how feasible is it, do you think, to be both a system developer and a grower? You know, are you always optimizing for the one or the other, if you see what I mean?
So in my experience, every actors that have built their own technology was at first a grower. Maybe it was never in the business model. In my business model, I never was a grower, but as of now, I am growing plant and selling those plants to professional. And why am I doing that? It's for 2 reasons. First, I need to make sure that I talked about productivity, cost of production, etc. I need to test it myself. I need to have the right data to give to my clients, because it's such a new technology. You cannot go to a producer and tell him to buy it just as he would buy a tractor. In his set of mind, he the first reaction is that is it working? Is it so he want to see it work? He want to have the data, how much it yield, how much the production cost, can it make money? Will people buy it? Because it's actually a concern as well. Sometimes they are concerned about people buying food from it, knowing that it's a bit technological without soil, etc. There's part of the world, like in the United States, it's not an issue. People actually love it because it's technological. But in France, it's not always the fact. People in France, sometimes they are coming and they're, oh, it's too weird, I don't want it. So this is something to be considered. And another point to be considered is that by growing this way in Europe, you cannot be biological. You cannot have the label biological. And so it means for the client, your client, which will be the grower, that he will have to sell less. The cost, he would have to reduce the price of his merchandise because he cannot have the biological label. So this is also something to consider. So to reassure our future clients and to make money on the way, we test the technology by growing plants and by selling those plants. And every actors I know, Clean Greens, agri-cool, they all grow there. They used actually agri-cool. I think it's a 6 years old company. It's pretty nice what they're doing. They focus on strawberry at first, and their business model always was to sell the production unit. But 6 years later, they're still growing plants and selling plants. So I don't know why. Maybe it's very lucrative. Maybe they don't find the client. I haven't talked about them to them about that. But yeah. So
yeah. Got time for one more question, maybe? We'll squeeze one more in. It was just one that came up in the comments along with this. And you mentioned it there in that kind of in the making money and the consumer pull and all of those kind of questions. Is there a balance to be struck, or even a kind of conflict between one of the offerings of this kind of agriculture is that year-round growing, right? But there's also this movement towards eating what's seasonal. So is there a balance to be struck there, or even a conflict?
Yeah.
And how to solve those?
So we had to face actually this conflict heads on, because at first, at the beginning of the company, our get to market strategy was to sell to restaurants, which is not a good strategy as of COVID-19, because restaurants don't have any money left. But what we managed to sold one unit to a restaurant, and the first thing when I was selling everything he could do with the cube, and I was telling him you could do basil in the winter. He stopped me right there. He said, "I don't want basil in winter. My customers don't want basil in winter. Nobody wants basil in winter." So this is something to consider. That said, I said that nowadays I am myself a grower, and what I do is I'm not selling to consumer. I'm selling to professional. I'm selling to chocolate factory, for example. So they're doing a chocolate with an aromas. So we are testing and trying different tastes, and once they find the one they want, they actually will have no season. What I'm trying to say is, once the product is transformed, there's no more kind of season. You a chocolate with a basil taste, you buy it in winter, you buy it in summer. It doesn't bother the consumer anymore. So the frontier created by this season can be assessed by different means, or you sell to somebody that don't care about the season because the product is being transformed, or it can be interesting for example, I've talked about pharmaceutical company. There's no season for pharmaceutical products. You have your when you have a headache, you need your medicine, whether it's in winter, in summer. So what they are doing, for example, a pharmaceutical company, because they need a construct. They will buy from a country at one season, then they will buy from another country at another season, to make sure that all year round they will have their plants. So this type of technology can answer this product. But of course, I am for restaurants, for consumer, this is not the right strategy to sell all year long. So people say they don't want it, but they still buy it.
Sure. Okay, well, that brings us about, just a couple of minutes over. So thank you so much for giving that presentation and for answering all of those questions. It's been really, really interesting. Thank you, obviously, to all of you for coming along and being part of it. And thank you to the organisers for bringing us here. And I'll hand it back to them if there are any last words from that side.
Well, thank you so much. It was really insightful conversation. I'm really looking forward to future developments, and I think everyone really enjoyed it. Thanks again.
Cool. Thank you all.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody.